Yeah, they have these like VR arcades. I think I should have an ROV arcade.
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. VR ROV.
Honestly, I'd be into that because you could try stuff that you wouldn't otherwise normally try with an ROV and then just crash it and be like, okay.
Yeah, redo. Don't do that in real.
Exactly, trying to pick
Exactly.
up different rocks and, you know, just like what you experience on this dive. I mean, I think it would be really fascinating how many points you would get.
It's super cool amount of technology that has developed in the last, 5 years, never mind the last like 20 years. We can have Trevor's rock toss game.
Mm-hmm.
Who can throw their rock the farthest?
And then you could get different types of arms based upon the points that you get, you know, the more refined.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can choose your arm and upgrade your ROV.
I was going to say,
Exactly.
upgrade your ROV, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, maybe we should just invent this.
Yeah, I think we need to just brainstorm. Let's go off the party line here. And
Can't give away trade secrets now.
we're by Silicon Valley here. No,
It's too late. We've said too much.
On their little testimonial on the box, so thanks Nautilus Live. Just make sure you put like nautiluslive.org on your box there. And you do manufacture that.
Inspired by.
Right.
Make sure you get all our names right. You can check out the team page.
Have a picture of Trevor.
Yeah.
Does that mean I get a cut?
Of course you get a cut.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone in this van gets a cut, but only this van. Only our watch.
I like only this van, not that science row.
Oh, steady on there.
Or one United van.
Cause a van divide. Let's get like a shutter down that middle section. You can like pull it up or down.
It's like the ROV hangar door.
Yeah, just hang it on.
Science is being too rowdy. Cut them off.
I just noticed when I came to visit you guys up front, it's actually a lot warmer up there.
I have to sorely disagree with you, Lee.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
only for us three.
Only you three.
Over in front of the racks is not warm.
It is quite chilly in
Is
the
it
video
too chilly?
seat.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Susan and Jess are quite cold up there.
Mm-hmm.
But you three are living a life of luxury. Ben
Oh,
looks
this
totally
is-
relaxed.
The tropics, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a little too relaxed.
That's why I'm more awake thinking about the
I've got a little
These
glass of
games.
orange juice with an umbrella in it.
Susan's over here. She's got her hood up. She's bundled.
Sled dogs.
I'm getting ready to put on my third layer. I saw Sam earlier today, and she looked like she was full Arctic. She had her scarf up around her nose and her hood up and her down jacket on.
She did. I know. I saw that my very first day here, and I was really worried because I didn't bring enough. Oh my goodness! I knew it was cold.
Well, I have a hat if you'd like, Susan.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. I do have a hat under this hood already. Containing my heat. So last year NASA was trying out a soft gripper, is that correct?
I do believe that was correct.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. It wasn't a soft gripper. It was more of a gripper.
It was, but it was not the metallic claw hands that we've been using for this cruise.
No, it was I can't remember how it was powered, but it was to basically hold on to like different morphologies of rocks.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't a soft gripper. So we've had a couple of things where we were talking about Dr. Brandon Phillips earlier. So he actually has like a squidgy fingers, which is hydraulically powered, and that's to pick up things really gently, really soft-bodied organisms like the holothurians, like the sea cucumbers. So he has developed something to do that, whereas the one last year was from NASA JPL, and that was more to sort of grip onto vertical rock faces and different morphologies of rocks, like an anchor basically.
Mm-hmm.
Lee, did you see Dr. Phillips' new origami structure he's trying to come up with?
I have not, no,
It's
but it sounds fun.
super cool. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. Multi-paneled box that lays open, but it closes like a big origami box with like hexagonal panels around whatever the organism is you want to get, so it doesn't actually disturb it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to play with it a little bit. It's super cool.
Oh, cool. No, that sounds really cool. Has he got any plans to take it to depth, or is he just doing shallow water tests on it at the moment?
I think he's still testing it at the moment, but I'm sure the big plan is to get it at depth.
Awesome.
And I know Jess, the other Jess, our ROV pilot, has been studying for her doctorate in understanding grip technologies and trying to recreate different grips from animals to be used on the ROVs. And that's super cool.
That is. I like that. Did anyone ever see that little, like, bristly type brush that to remove spiders, but without from your house without killing them?
No.
It's very cute. Yeah, you press it, and then the bristles open, and then when you let it go, the bristles close slowly but gently, and then the little spider can be moved outside. So
I have to say, as a wildlife person, I'm not the biggest fan of spiders. I'm not proud to say that, but I do appreciate them and their worth, so I'm always that person who's like, get it, but don't kill it. Just put it outside.
Do you save it, or do you kill it if you're alone?
No, I don't kill it. I do not kill spiders.
Do you leave them, or do you just like put them outside?
It depends on the size of the spider.
What if it's like meaty?
Meaty?
Like if it dropped, you would hear it fall.
Oh, ooh, nope. We would. I'd probably end up putting a bowl on top of it. It's like it'll stay there until someone else can escort it outside.
Those are the spiders I grew up with.
Oh God.
They would always be in my house because we lived in like kind of in the forest, and they'd escape the winter or whatever. But you'd put a cup over them, slide a paper under them, and throw them outside.
Yeah, that's typically what I do.
But it would be in the night, so you wouldn't actually know if it's landed outside. So you'd hope it's a really nice quiet night, so you can hear it hit the ground, and you're like, all right.
I've never heard a spider thunk. No.
It's really subtle. It's not that loud, but you know what's happened.
Wow. Ooh, ugh. I'm also the tinier the spiders I don't like
job.
because you don't know where they end up. Could end up like in your hair or something. You're just ugh. Like if I'm out in the woods, I'm fine because I'm in their house. But if they're in my house and we have an agreement, they stay on that side of the room, I stay on my side of the room, and everything's fine.
Conkers. I say, yeah.
What do you put in?
Conkers.
What?
Clunkers?
What are conkers?
Okay, translation thing. Let me find out.
Is this a UK to US
It's like
translation?
an oak from an oak tree.
what is it? What, to get rid of spiders or?
Oh,
to
acorns.
I
thought
thought
you
an acorn.
I thought you.
No. Nope, not an acorn.
But is this to get rid of spiders? What is this for?
Oh, it comes from. Let me. I think it's a horse chestnut, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's from a horse chestnut tree, so I don't know what you guys would call that.
Horse chestnuts.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is chestnuts. Now that you're saying it out loud, that's exactly what it is. You put chestnuts in the corner of your room, and spiders don't come near.
Really?
Don't
Also,
come.
yellow
But
cedar shavings,
it's not the
which
same.
is kind of area specific, but
I do have a cedar closet. I don't know if it's yellow cedar.
I'm coming back to the conker chestnut question. So a horse chestnut, what I call a conker, is not. You don't eat those, but we eat chestnuts.
Correct.
But
So
you
it's
don't.
something different.
Okay.
So it's like a crab apple versus a regular apple.
Okay. Whew. Glad we got that sorted. Do you not play with it like at school? Do you not have conker fights? Is that not a thing?
No.
No?
We don't.
Okay.
Snowballs.
Okay, so no, in the UK, I don't think you're allowed to do it anymore. I think they've actually banned it at schools. You don't like literally throw conkers at each other, but you put a
I feel like you
conker on
do.
no. You thread so you pierce a hole in the conker, and then you thread a string through the conker, and then you like aim. There's two of you playing, and you aim your conker at the other conker, and the idea is to break someone else's conker, right? And the first one, the one to break the other your opponent's conker wins.
Huh.
So when
Do
I
you
was
say clonk, like clonk someone on the head?
no clonking.
Okay.
It's not violent.
Is this,
Okay.
but like the
Non-violent.
conquer, how do you spell conquer?
CONKER.
C-R-N-K-E-R.
CON.
C-O-N, okay.
Yeah. And then there used to be loads of things. So I remember when I was little, you used to like soak them in vinegar because apparently it like toughened up the conker.
You come into recess
This is
ready.
amazing.
I've rigged my conquer.
Yep.
I really want to play.
I know, this sounds like a great childhood pastime.
It was.
So are they spiky?
No, you take the nut, the I suppose the horse chestnut, the conker out of the spiky bit. You peel it
Oh.
off, and then you're just left with the actual, the conker inside the horse chestnut.
I'm just surprised that that's what the Brits do in their playground days.
Yeah, honestly,
Clunkers.
That's what we
Not
were doing in the
surprised.
mid-80s.
It's very,
It
you
was
know.
good. As I say, I'm not
Yeah,
too sure
there's
they're allowed
a-
to do it anymore. I'm not too sure kids can do this anymore. But it's certainly how I grew up when I was
My-
younger.
My elementary school had
video
a
games, just
really
conquer.
big
Conquer
yard.
fights.
Clunkers.
There were plenty of woods and pine cones and little paths and stuff for the kids to go through, and you know we were allowed so far as long as you're in sight. But there was plenty of nature for us to play with, and
Look how
but
much nature. Wow.
no conquer fights.
Yeah, imagine that. They're actually trying to bring back kids getting going outside and playing.
Yeah, when I was young, it
Uh-huh.
was an hour a
Bring
day.
back.
Now
Bring
it's
back outside play.
so rare to see kids on a bike.
I know.
So someone's saying they have a pet tarantula.
Ugh.
I fully support
Uh-huh.
it. I think that's awesome.
She's very friendly, and her name is Fluffy.
Oh, that's
Uh-huh.
adorable.
I always find it interesting because I'm a little phobic of the big spiders. But I had this realization in undergrad that what kind of animals are people phobic about? Like, not afraid of. Like, you're afraid of a tiger, but you're not, like, phobic. Like, it doesn't freak you out. Like, what animals are that, right?
Yeah, there's only certain ones, I
It's
guess.
like spiders, right? What else?
Snakes.
Snakes.
Well, there's always a big word for all of those, right?
So,
the
but-
whole arachnophobia, like
well, it's
something-phobia.
you're phobic. It's an evolutionary response, right? So you're phobic of spiders and snakes. What do spiders and snakes have in common?
Number of legs is
Yeah,
not
they
2 or
have
4.
venom. They have venomous species.
Oh.
Oh.
That's how it explained to me. So
So scorpions, yeah.
and they have a very specific mode of locomotion, so it's easy to kind of develop a locomotory, a visual schema for being phobic, afraid of them. So you just want to get them out. You want to respond by running away.
What about frogs? There are venomous frogs.
There are
I see what
venomous
you're saying.
frogs.
Is that considered venom, or I guess they're poisonous, not venomous? There is a difference.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a difference.
Yeah.
That might be
In
wrong.
South
There might be
America,
Frogs are just
you were.
cute. No, that's interesting. That's
The
an outlier.
colorful ones. In
Although
South
there
America.
are, I do believe there are frogs that can, they are venomous.
But there are. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Both
for sure.
both poisonous and venomous, as in like their bite can affect you.
Yeah, but they
Interesting.
don't bite you. It's dermal. Yeah, I
Some
don't know.
some South American ones, I think there's one species that does have a bite.
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
it bark worse? I said that right.
Maybe
It's
there
bark
just
worse.
wasn't enough
Croaks.
evolutionary pressure.
But
'Cause
I've,
the snakes and spiders are, they might ambush by accident so you want to be
yeah.
out of their way.
also I've got a wild story when I took my one of my classes for reptiles and amphibians, and we had a professor. His name was Lou Perotti, who the head of wildlife conservation in the Roger Williams Zoo in Rhode Island, and he has seen some wild things out in the deep jungles of South America and Asia and all over the place. And He, you know, obviously we're learning about the Rhode Island species of snakes, and we only have one poisonous species, and that is the rattlesnake. So any other snake you see other than a rattlesnake in Rhode Island is non-poisonous, and he gets bit by them constantly. And so my only fear of picking up snakes is just being afraid of being bitten. Like Ben said, you're just afraid that they're poisonous, but when you know it's not poisonous,
I like snakes.
The bite isn't harmful to you. So we actually, one time in the fields during class, we found a snake, and I purposely had it bite me so that I would not be afraid of the bite anymore, and I would feel comfortable picking up snakes in the wild.
Wow.
It's quite primal logic.
Well, it's like if you know what it feels like, then you're less afraid of it.
Did it hurt?
It's like a cat scratch. It was the one I had was a black racer.
Like
Cat
a cat
scratches.
scratch?
Cat scratches do like have a thing on them. Like what is it? Like a resin? I want to say that like scratch. Like that's why a cat scratch isn't just the same as a scratch with a stick or with a bumping on a table or something. It actually leaves the red marks. It's because it's got a. I want to say it's the thing they use to retract their claws. So they slide it in and out.
Like
It's
a
like
cuticle?
Really?
I just
it's like
assumed the claw was just sharp as heck.
It is also that, but it's actually a thing, not a goo, but like a. I don't know the biology term for it at all. A residue or a resin or some kind of thing on the claws that actually. I think it's a histamine response. I don't know that either. Some red and flamey thing that comes off cat's claws, but not dogs.
Interesting.
I think it's because of the retraction on the claws, but I don't know that either.
Huh.
A lot of
Cat
speculation
scratch
here.
fever.
Yeah, I'm usually, when it comes to snakes and like tarantulas, I'm good if someone hands them to me. I can hold a tarantula if someone hands it to me, but I am not going to go pick it up myself.
You ever seen a wild tarantula?
I've not.
Yes.
I've seen one.
They're amazing.
In
Really
Canada?
don't like 'em.
California all the time.
In Panama.
I mistook one for a very large hermit crab at night once. and
Oh,
it
those are
freaked
different.
Me. Shine my flashlight on it when it was like 2 feet away from me, and I was like, ah.
I thought you were going to say you went to pick it up, and
Well, that's
not
what
a
I
hermit
was
crab.
doing.
That's not a crab at all.
That is one furry crab.
Hermie.
I'm fascinated by spiders, but I was felt like you did, a little fearful when I was young. But then I had an incredible professor at UCI, Dr. Kupowitz, and he was researching them. And just from learning about how they make their webs, just what they're like and their importance to the environment, I really gained a better awareness and appreciation of them. So now I try to pass that on. But yeah, they're really fascinating. Haven't you ever watched them make a web?
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
They're incredible creatures, which is so sad that, people are afraid of them, because every creature has this really, here's the conservationist in me, every creature has this, like, such a cool thing that they do for the planet, for the world, but you have this phobia that just, like, completely turns them away.
I mean, I respect them. I just don't want them crawling on me.
Right? Yeah.
No, you beat me to it, Trevor.
That's
You did.
Yeah.
Stand by. I was like, ooh,
I'm
80
standing.
meters to go. Time for a bit of excitement.
So ready for some excitement in my life.
Can I put the Niskins on sat feed 2?
You can
Very good.
indeed.
Okay, what
No,
color
that
am I
one.
looking for? I think I'm looking for white here. Is that true? That's what. Yeah, white is what I want. Okay, halted here for 68 more meters.
Poised and ready for action.
Yeah, we're gonna hit it at 2100 exactly.
Yeah.
On
I
the
said less than
nose.
2100, so do 2099.
Oh. 2099.9.
Yeah, perfect. You got it.
Oops. It's not going. So you see how the wrist is slightly spinning? It's because I have it in continuous wrist. So it's, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so this is the wrist valve bias, which controls how the pot is changed, and it's just a, I don't know, if I spin it all the way this way, the wrist will start spinning one way. Starting to spin towards me, which is only really a problem. It's a big problem for the like super sampling and stuff because you're holding it there for an hour. And then if I go the other way, it'll spin the other way. So the reason it's not super reliable is because you're just picking a point between here where it's left and here where it's right, and where is it the middle, it's hard to know, and it changes over time. So if you ever want it to stay exactly in one spot, we've always put it in slave wrist. So for all of the super sampling stuff, this light is off. It's in slave wrist mode. I'm going to show you that.
No.
So a lot of gooey stuff. So all these buttons are also down here too. You can set your grip force, which is what we do all the time.
Hey Wayne, I'm okay right now. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah. That's not a, that's not colloquial. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, we're doing Niskins right now.
No, that's the real deal. So you can do grip lock down here, wrist mode. I don't know where halt is on here. I think that is the same as this button, equivalent to this button here. So right now I'm grip locked. So if I am moving the arm around, the jaws will not open.
Yes, I do.
And wrist mode cycles between continuous and slave
All right,
wrist
enjoy.
mode.
Thanks for checking in.
Turn off everything? Craft power. I don't know what your question is really, but I think that's well, like right now, or how it is. That's just halt. So that's this button at the top here. Press that once, it holds it in position. Exactly. I think it's actually called the index button. Oh, it's called halt, but. Sure, you still got a minute before I'm moving it, but. Ah, run it away. I'm ready. 4 meters. All right, Lee, you watching the camera?
Standing by back here.
Okay.
We're ready.
2101. And here we go. Dunk.
Triggered.
12 fired. Copy that.
Can I get 2? No, I don't want to do 2. That'll mess Aubrey up.
No, you're right. Yeah, go one at a time.
I was going to go for gold there, but. What's that?
It is, yeah.
Said that was the nicest thing I've ever seen happen in the van.
11 fired. And 10. Lovely job, thank you. Stop there, no more.
Oh, thank you. Keep me honest.
Are we doing any more Niskins or just those 3?
We are going to fire the remaining 3 at 150 meters.
Gotcha.
Ben, you see that rubber flapper now?
Oh, no. It's locking. Or it's
See it's blocking the bottom of the wrist there?
Yeah.
And I don't think you can see
No
the
ratio.
ram.
What is that flap?
Ooh.
Yeah, what are you guys
Protects
talking?
that. You
Oh,
can see
yeah,
the
what
bottom
is
of the
that?
bottom of the ram now. So the rubber flap protects that ram. So you can just barely see it at the bottom of the shoulder there, the chrome cylinder. That's part of the hydraulic cylinder. So when I stow the wrist, or stow the arm, I should say, the wrist can slightly come into contact with that.
I see.
So the rubber flapper protects me from myself.
Do you know, I was looking at that earlier and wondering what that was.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now I
Ah.
know.
A
Now you know.
self-protection
Now I
device.
know.
Yeah.
Learning so much tonight.
I'm going to ask some questions. So just a minute ago, you did all your gauge checks. What are you actually checking for when you use the bubble cam to look at all your different gauges on the vehicle?
Great Cassidy question.
Come on, Cassidy, let me know.
Haley,
Enlighten me.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So we're just checking to make sure that there's no leaks or punctures in the reservoirs that we have for the oil, because you know, our hydraulics are run using the oil in the reservoir, and so we need to make sure that the reservoir is at a proper level, just in case it doesn't blow up, or in case there's like nothing wrong with it.
To make sure there's no ingress of water and things like that. So you're basically looking to make sure the pressure stays the same and it's not dropping.
Well, it will vary,
Or
but we just want to make sure that it's varying within the threshold that we're allowing it to vary in.
And does each gauge look at a different hydraulic system, like one for the tool tray, one for the arm, one for the swing arms?
More or less. You
or
know,
they
each
all-
of them have labels, and so the craft arm has its own gauge, which is the top one, but we don't actually use that one because it's inaccurate. So we look at this bottle. Oh, but let me see if I can get this better. So we see that you see this bottle in the back with that has the markers in the vertical orientation.
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
we use that to determine the craft's hydraulic level.
Okay.
Is that right? Column pressure. Sorry. And then we use this top gauge. It's kind of just hiding right now,
Yeah, the one right at the top, just in the center.
right? To
Yeah.
determine our reservoir oil pressure.
Uh-huh.
And so each of them has their own.
And so how often do you have to take these readings? Oh yeah, I can see. So I can see the little
The label.
the labels on the side.
Yeah, they're done every hour.
Okay.
But if you're distracted, like I was just, it'll vary. But we try to do it every hour.
Okay. And so you have a certain tolerance for each of these gauges as well. Like you say, they'll vary a little bit, but
Yeah.
thanks for that,
Yes.
Cassidy.
What
You're
else do you
welcome.
read when you do your gauge checks?
Yeah, what else is there?
So in addition to that, I'm checking the temperature in the bottles that we have and checking the humidity to make sure it's not going up or down. Or if it goes down, great. But if it goes up, that's not great. I'm also logging, the time that I take these readings and the depth that we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the voltages, so the AC voltage, the DC voltage, the voltage that the vehicle's reading.
So with the humidity in the bottles, do you expect a certain level of humidity to be in there? Is there always a certain level that's always going to be there?
Yeah, so right now in Argus, on the port bottle, we have a humidity percentage of 22, and then on the starboard bottle, we have a humidity percentage of 41. So you would think that 41% would be high, but it's within our allowable tolerance.
Okay. And when you're saying bottle, what do you mean? Do you mean like the bit where all the computer and the electronics are? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Argus has one bottle, and Argus has two bottles. Herc has one.
Cool. Thanks, Cassidy.
You're welcome, Lee.
We're off the coast of Northern California and Oregon at Quarter Ridge at the base of the Juan de Fuca Plate. And this is the subsea expedition where they're collecting samples for microbiologists and geologists from the hydrothermal vents. Today we also did some mapping as well as sampling. Presently, we are ascending. And we should arrive in about an hour and a half. Trevor, what is the ETA?
We're going to be at the surface in approximately 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours. Okay. Thank you.
Should do shadow puppets in the camera. Gonna do it in the screen. Duck. Bunny rabbit. There you go. You gotta get it up in the tops monitor. Ready? Here. Please enjoy the shadow puppet stylings of Cassidy Gonzalez.
I'm taking a request. I'll be here all week.
Actually, I'll use the lower monitor. Use the sonar monitor, so you don't have to reach as far. Oh, that might not work.
Oh, it's darker.
It is darker. I can teach you how to do an alien.
How do I
with
do
your
that?
hands. All right, so if anyone's paying attention, no one's asleep, you're gonna cross your,
In Australia, everyone's awake.
that's true.
Well,
So you're
that's
gonna
not true.
have your palms face you.
Yeah.
Put your pinky side by side.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring down and cross your ring fingers.
Yeah.
And you put your middle fingers over your ring fingers. So they're like that.
Ooh.
And then you're gonna
I don't know.
put
I don't know if I have
your
the dexterity for this.
pointer fingers under your ring fingers. So your pointers should be touching each other. Your ring fingers are resting on your pointers. And then you bring your thumbs together. And it's an alien!
Oh my god, I'm
E.T.
horrified.
Fun Hum.
I'm
And it's got
horrified.
your ring fingers in them look like little teeth. Well done, well done.
It looks like a lizard.
Or a lizard.
Couldn't see
I don't know. You just see a glob. It's a dark glob.
It's actually an alien.
Here, we'll come around. You can do.
I like my little alligator.
Here, you can look on the screen. You can do I can actually do an alligator too. So instead of crossing your ring fingers, you cross your pinky fingers, and then
Oh
you
yeah,
wrap
butterfly.
fingers under, and you bring your middle finger and your pointer fingers together, and it's an alligator.
How often do the scientists, well, archaeologists, I guess they would be, look for shipwrecks? Someone was curious about shipwrecks and Nautilus. I know they were looking at, was it Thunder Bay earlier?
Thanks for bringing it back to science, Susan.
Someone's asking questions here. I'm doing my job.
You're doing it well.
Okay. It's late. Okay, I understand. You kids are too young to remember the movie Cocoon. Have you ever heard of it? Cocoon?
No, I've never heard of Cocoon. What's that?
Oh, I think that's the name of it. It's so long ago. You'll have to look it up. I think it's a Ron Howard movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that the one with the aliens?
Right. Uh-huh.
Their
Well,
do they have their cocoons in like the pool at the retirement home?
Exactly. That's it.
And when they swim with them,
In
they
Florida.
get youthful.
Exactly.
I do remember. I actually have seen that movie.
Super youthful.
Have we found any evidence of offshore dumping? Someone would like to know.
Not that I'm aware of intentional dumping. I think we have seen evidence of litter on the seafloor, but it's not like dumping as in mass waste dumping on the seafloor. But no, we've come across a few things.
Oh, one second. That's six. I don't think this was Nautilus. Might have been another research vessel, but they found toilets at the bottom of the ocean. Oh, that was you. That was you.
Hey, I was going to say, I'm sure someone said they found one. Trevor said he found one.
Oh, actually, you notice it was a washing machine. They found a shipping container full of washing machines.
Yeah, that was the Okeanos, I believe. So yeah, that's actually quite a frequent occurrence, actually, is that shipping containers actually quite often fall off of cargo ships. And so, yeah, in some deep sea exploration, they have actually come across like full containers with their goods sprawled across the seafloor, be them like appliances for the home, like washing machines, dishwashers, and things like that. So yeah, but it's not consciously dumping things on the seafloor. That was more of a incident at sea, which ended up with one of the shipping containers on the seafloor.
From like storms, etc.
Exactly. Yeah, from like really, really bad weather.
Well, I'm sure the plastics, because they're light, they just flow with the currents. So you don't see, we're not going to really see those in the bottom.
There was a number of years ago, and I can't remember how long ago this was, but there was another shipping container incident where a shipping container full of rubber ducks actually fell off a cargo ship. And the rubber ducks, as you say, rightly so, Susan, they float, rubber will float, and oceanographers actually use those to look at oceanic currents.
Right.
So people have been tracking those for decades to see where they've washed up from the point at which they fell off the cargo ship and where they've washed up across the world.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Got to get those ship pilots stop doing donuts in the middle of the ocean, throwing their cargo off.
As I say, I don't think it definitely wasn't intentional.
I did love that rubber ducky story. And
What was
it's
that, sorry, Ben?
important. I love the rubber ducky story. And
Yeah.
it's important for understanding surface currents. It's like
Absolutely.
quite opportunistic.
It's actually a huge, most definitely. It's like a huge oceanographic surface current experiment
I think
that was
they had
totally
another one with
unplanned, but it's actually...
bottle caps or something. Or
What was that, sorry?
bottle
Caps, that's
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Another tracer experiment.
Yeah.
It really is a good way to make a good situation out of a bad situation.
Absolutely. I think I read somewhere recently as well that all of a sudden a load of... Do you remember... I don't know, some of you might remember in the van, maybe not all of you, in the early 90s, like having a Garfield the cat-shaped phone was a thing.
I do know that.
Yeah?
I think I know what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, so in France, really recently, a load of Garfield cat phones washed up along the coastline.
Yes.
But
yeah.
the same
Recently?
thing. Yeah, recently. So all of a sudden, they just washed up ashore. And again, it was from a shipping container from like a few decades ago.
As one
And-
like little packet of Lagrangian particle.
Yeah, and like just randomly loads of little Garfields just like pitched
Garfields.
up.
That's awesome. I mean,
Look.
not, but
Garfield drifters.
It's crazy how they just like they disappear for years, and then like by the time the currents finally bring them to shore, it's people forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I should imagine they were a lot heavier though, so they probably didn't float. So that's probably why it's taken so many decades for them to surface.
I know that after the earthquake in Japan, in I guess it was in that Sendai region, the Fukushima area, that there was a lot of debris that was in like Washington State on their beaches that would wash up. And people were very concerned about, especially from Fukushima, with the radioactivity. But I don't know what happened from that. It was just interesting.
I heard a story about a motorbike that washed up from Japan from that earthquake, I believe. Might be mixing up my stories here. They're washed up on the west coast of North America, and a local motorbike dealer in the city that it washed up on, like, restored it and brought it back to the guy in Japan that had lost it.
Wow,
It's like, what a
he found the
crazy
real
story.
owner?
Yeah. It
That's
still had all its, like, identification numbers on it and stuff.
Oh, that
They
is
were able to track him down.
cool.
Like, what a crazy story that is.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
I think that was from the Fukushima. Can't remember.
Was that 2011? I'm not really sure what year that was that happened. Seems like yesterday. Wow.
Maybe the day before.
Right.
Probably Tuesday.
So going back to these Garfield phones really quickly, I've just found an article on it. It said actually they were shipped over 30 years ago, so it just shows the persistence of plastic in seawater. So for 30 years, from the point at which they entered the ocean, they were actually washing up, still very much resembling a Garfield phone.
Yeah, they were in really good condition,
Yeah,
weren't
really
they?
good condition. Yeah, so that's 30 years of being in the ocean. So it does show how persistent plastics are.
All for our Garfield phones.
Yes.
Kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
Garfield phones.
And it's also making me feel a lot older because apparently this was in the early 80s, not the early 90s. So I was a decade out.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Like we were saying earlier about the telephone cables, I'm sure there are plenty of people now who don't even know what it was even like to have a Garfield phone. They will
Yeah.
never appreciate the novelty of having your own phone in your room shaped like a cartoon cat.
Or princess phone.
Or
That's
the
great.
princess phone.
Oh,
With
you
the
would know
nice
that?
furry cover,
Right.
pink furry.
Mm-hmm.
Or all the time spent untangling the curly cords.
Oh, right.
Or
Exactly.
when you're talking on the phone and you go to walk away and then you get pulled back because you forget how short the cord is.
I was used to the cord, so I actually didn't do that very often. Then when I got the wireless one and I was able to walk around, it was like sweet.
Freedom!
Yeah.
The world is your oyster.
I know. Now it's hard to find a public phone. How is it in Canada?
It's weird to see a payphone, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's wild.
We still have them.
Do you?
That's
Going strong.
It's still
The red
British
booth?
style.
The red booths, yeah, they're still in London, but like in a lot of towns they have, you still see quite a lot of payphones, but they're card operated, obviously, not coin operated now.
Well,
Right.
I feel like
Yeah.
too with the whole UK payphone thing, it's a staple of your tourism. You don't want to lose that pretty red phone box. Phone booth.
Absolutely.
And the double-decker buses. And right.
Victoria's got a
Conkers.
bunch of double-decker buses. A lot, like half of our transit system, or a quarter of our transit system, is double-decker buses.
That's cool. US
That
isn't that
is.
fun.
It depends on the city in Canada. I don't know.
Yeah, I used to, I'd answer the phone, and then of course like the notepad or whatever I needed was like just out of reach, and I got really talented at like stretching my leg out and using my toes to grab the notepad off the other counter.
So, Dr. Marsh, since you're from the UK, I don't know what it's called. It's called bubbles and something. It's like potatoes. Is it potatoes and cabbage? I don't know.
Bubble and squeak.
Bubble and squeak. Could you please explain that? Uh-huh.
I'm not really a fan. But yeah, I believe it's just potatoes and bacon and cabbage fried.
Oh, okay.
It's like leftovers, I think, basically refried.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's called
And
bubble and squeak.
That's it, and squeak.
Bubble and squeak.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay, so someone said the motorbike that washed up in Canada is now in the Harley-Davidson Museum in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. believe this is someone from New Zealand. NZ is New Zealand, isn't it?
I believe so.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know that. Okay, so this is Nautilus Live. We are located off the coast of Northern California and Oregon at the base of the Juan de Fuca Plate, exploring the hydrothermal vents for NASA subsea expedition. Microbiologists and geologists are obtaining samples from the hydrothermal vents to learn more about the extremophiles, specifically thermophiles in that region, and also to acquire samples of geological sediment, deposit, rocks, etc. So Dr. Marsh, could you share a little bit about your experience in Antarctica studying hydrothermal vents?
Yeah, I can do. What would you like to know specifically? Or what would you, just generally what I was doing down there?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so we know hydrothermal vents form along mid-ocean ridges, so spreading centres along the mid-ocean ridge. And since the first discovery in 1977, we've located them in the Pacific, where in the Galapagos, where they were found originally, across the Atlantic and into the Indian Ocean. And associated with each hydrothermal vent is a set of fauna, and they're bound by what we call biogeographic regions. And so, for example, in the Pacific, where we are at the moment, we find tube worms dominate, and there are many species of tube worms that are found at the hydrothermal vents across the Pacific, East Pacific Rise, and down to where we are at Gorda Ridge, and down into the South Pacific as well. And in the mid-Atlantic, the hydrothermal vents on the mid-Atlantic ridge are dominated by shrimp, Remicaris, that's their Latin name, the genus, and also mussels, Bathymodiolus. And then if we go over to the Western Pacific, the hydrothermal vents there are dominated by different species of snails, so types of gastropod. Now down in the Antarctic, it's not actually connected to the mid-ocean ridge, but what is down there is called a back arc spreading centre. So that means there's an island arc, which is the South Sandwich Islands, and there's a subduction zone, and the East Scotia plate is being pulled apart from the Southern Ocean plate, which causes a back arc spreading centre. So we have like a separate little ridge segment. And so that was an area which was hypothesized from geological formations and from looking at mapping that there might be hydrothermal vents. And actually, Dr. Chris German, who is part of the subsea team, was working, I believe, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and had oceanographics signals, so using what we call a CTD cast, so using water samples and sensors on the end of a cable from a ship, so not using ROVs, they were able to detect the plume at those hydrothermal vents in the Antarctic. So when I started my PhD back in 2009, I was part of a UK consortium to go visit those hydrothermal vents for the very first time with an ROV and actually locate them and see what animals were there. And what we were really interested in finding was, were they going to be more related to the hydrothermal vents we see in the Atlantic? So were we expecting to see shrimp and mussels? Or would we see the fauna that are more associated with the Pacific, like the tube worms? Or would we see something totally different? So that was kind of one of the hypotheses we were working under, was just to see what animals could be living there. And so we went down there and we had our ROV and we sampled the area. We located the hydrothermal vents, and to our surprise there was a totally different assemblage of animals. So the vents down in the Antarctic are actually dominated by a unique set of species, one of them being the Hoff crab, aptly named because of its hairy chest. And its Latin name is Kiwa tyleri. So that was kind of cool. So I worked on that for my PhD. And then there's a new type of snail, and then stalked barnacles, and a different type of anemone. So yeah, so the assemblage and the arrangement of species and the zonation of species around the vents in the Antarctic are very different from what we've seen in the Pacific, the Indian and the Atlantic Oceans. And now we're kind of just filling in the gaps. So I think from now we'll probably, as soon as the more and more vents we discover, we'll start to see more of a gradation in these species. So actually there'll be more kind of subtle differences as you work your way down the ridges. But yeah, so that was kind of the driver, and it's a really exciting project to be part of.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So then they can start to look at like the different types of species, indicator species. What does that mean in various regions, etc.
What was really interesting is actually when we found the Hoff crab down in the Antarctic, a couple of years later, I was part of another expedition to the Indian Ocean, to the southwest Indian Ridge. And again, many cruisers had been to the central Indian Ridge, but none of them had been to the southwest Indian, which is a little bit obviously closer to the Southern Ocean. And we were sampling some hydrothermal vent fields there, and we managed to find a very small pocket of Hoff crabs. They're not exactly the same species, but they're the same genre, so they're of the genus Kiwa, but they're still to be described at this moment in time. But that was the first time they've been located outside of the Southern Ocean as well, so actually they are found in the Indian Ocean, but in totally different abundances. I think we found a very small kind of area of them, of maybe 10 or 12, kind of nestled in the hydrothermal vent fluid, in between a load of snails.
And so
yeah.
do they have the hairy chest? That's bacteria, is it?
Yeah. So it's got setae, so that's the hair that's actually associated with the actual outer carapace of the crab itself, and then the bacteria are growing on those setae, so on those hair-like structures. That's where the bacteria is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And they have modified mouth parts. So what that means is they actually sit there and they're able to essentially farm the bacteria on their chests, and they scrape it off with these modified maxillipeds, these modified mouth parts, and actually ingest it that way, which is pretty cool.
Modified mouth parts.
I know, it's
There you go. That's your word of the night.
It is. Phrase
of the morning.
Phrase of the watch.
What was the other one? The
Phytodetrital fallout.
that one.
We need a word wall.
We do.
Uh-huh.
Like a nice little bulletin board. We can stick
Yeah, I
our
think
favorites.
we need to put that in the dining area.
Phyto fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Needs work.
It's one of those, say it 3 times fast.
Phytodetrital fallout. Phytodetrital.
And if you put that on Scrabble, your friends would not believe you. Right?
Yeah, right?
And then it wouldn't show up.
Phytodetrital, yeah.
It wouldn't show up on Scramble or Scrabble.
I was talking with John Willis, and he said that if we had had another day without dives, that's when you break out the Scrabble board. And based on how many scientists we have on board, it could have been a lot of big words out there. I think my favorite tongue twister, though, is toy boat.
It's getting to you, isn't it? Is it Megan who's sitting adjacent to you, Dr. Marsh?
No, it is Aubrey.
Aubrey, okay. I'm sorry. Aubrey, could you please share your background and how you became involved with OET? Oh, you're a data collector, so you can't really do that probably right now, right?
Sure. So I started out as the ocean science intern 4 years ago now. And so this is my 3rd season back on the ship as a data logger. And I'm currently doing my PhD at Northeastern University in Boston.
Terrific. How many times you've been, is this your 2nd time out?
This is my 3rd season out
Okay.
on the Nautilus, yep.
Wonderful. And what is your focus in for your PhD?
I'm looking at fisheries ecology, specifically looking at ecological forecasting. So trying to figure out with impending climate change how species distributions are going to change over time, and specifically looking at how individual behavior affects such models.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. I know that there are a number of jobs in that area, especially in fisheries. So that's a wonderful avenue.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Has anyone in here eaten uni?
Uni?
Mm-hmm. Sea urchin
Oh, no, I haven't.
and a sushi. You can save your money. It's a delicacy.
I know it's, I think it's really popular in Indian cuisine.
It's popular, I know, in Japanese cuisine also. I'm surprised that people in here haven't tried uni.
I've tried a lot of different seafood, but not that one.
It's
That was
okay.
me.
I like a lot of seafood except for uni.
I feel like this is a question for the room. What's the weirdest seafood you've ever eaten?
Uni.
I ate a live sardine once.
A live sardine.
Yeah,
How was that
someone
for
else
ya?
did
Look
it.
at that. animal. What are
He
you
was
doing
a
away
true
after, buddy?
naturalist, so I just followed suit, you know.
Did you swallow it head first so it swam the right way?
I actually bit it, which was my first mistake.
Ooh.
Probably my second mistake.
First was agreeing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I eat something that people think is weird, but I don't find weird anymore. Is
What?
raw oysters.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's what I
love
was
raw
about
oysters.
to say.
I
I
love
went
raw
on a
oysters.
research cruise out in the Delaware Bay, and we were chucking, what is it, dredging
Shucking.
for? Shucking. No,
And then
well,
S.
no, yeah, we were dredging for oysters, and so we brought some on board, and we had oysters on the half shell, straight from the water, which was really tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really good.
I know
But I wouldn't do
people-
it again because I don't like oysters.
People
That's
think it's
fair.
like swallowing a loogie, but I think they're great.
I also think swallowing a loogie's great.
Gross.
That's fine. You know what else is good with those? Is actually cooking them over a campfire.
You were talking about
yeah.
that.
Oh, was I talking to you about that?
Yeah.
Put some chives and some spices.
Yeah, share that with the world. They need to know.
Yeah. Maybe some cheese on top. Yeah.
All right, you're making me hungry.
I
Trevor,
go-
can we go for a camping trip, like off the ship, and you can teach me how to do fire oyster?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you like eel?
I do. I love eel. Yeah.
My kids like eel quite a bit.
It's good on sushi.
I'm
Sushi
trying
eel.
to think of strange seafood. Like, I guess I don't know what your level of strange is. Because, like, I've had octopus before.
So have I.
It's too rubbery.
It is
It's
very
very rubbery.
rubbery, yeah.
Mhm.
Super muscly.
By the way, our audience wants to share in the word wall. They think we should have it online. I think that's a good idea.
Fight of
Say
a
that again?
betrayal.
You know how we were talking about having a word wall? You know, the word of the night or the day? We've been saying it